You know that feeling when you're standing in the bathroom, trying to pee, and it just won't come out? Or maybe it's the opposite. You're rushing, pushing, forcing it out because you're in a hurry, or you think it's the only way to empty your bladder completely. Either way, you're not alone. Millions of men over 60 do the exact same thing every single day. But here's the hard truth. That little push you're giving, it's not helping. It's hurting you. And not just a little. It's silently damaging your prostate, weakening your bladder, and setting you up for problems you do not want to deal with. Let me ask you something. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night again because your bladder feels like it's about to explode? Or maybe you've stood at the urinal, straining, pushing, trying to squeeze out every last drop, only to still feel like you haven't emptied your bladder completely? And then, an hour later, you're back in the bathroom because you still feel like you have to go? If this sounds familiar, listen up. Because what you're doing, that little push, that extra squeeze, isn't just annoying. It's dangerous. I've seen it 1,000 times in my practice. Men come in complaining about weak streams, frequent urination, even pain. And when I ask them about their habits, they all say the same thing. Well, doc, I just push a little to make sure I get it all out. And that's when I have to break the bad news to them. Pushing while you pee is one of the worst things you can do for your urinary health. It's like revving your car engine while it's still in park. Eventually, something's going to break. And in your case, that something is your prostate, your bladder, and even your kidneys. Let me explain why this is such a big deal. Your bladder is a muscle. And like any muscle, if you strain it, if you force it to work harder than it's supposed to, it gets weak. Over time, that weakness turns into problems, like not being able to empty your bladder fully, which leads to frequent trips to the bathroom, which leads to not sleeping through the night, which leads to exhaustion, irritability, and a whole host of other issues you do not want in your life. And that's just the bladder. Let's talk about your prostate. Your prostate sits right below your bladder, and it wraps around your urethra, the tube that carries urine out of your body. When you push to pee, you're putting extra pressure on that prostate. And if your prostate is already enlarged, which, let's face it, is pretty common after 60, that extra pressure can make things a lot worse. It can lead to benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, which is just a fancy way of saying your prostate is bigger than it should be. And a bigger prostate means more trips to the bathroom, a weaker stream, and that awful feeling like you still have to go even after you've just gone. But it doesn't stop there. Because when you push, you're not just putting pressure on your prostate. You're also forcing urine back into your bladder. And when urine sits in your bladder too long, or when it gets pushed back in after you've already started peeing, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. And what does bacteria in your bladder lead to? Urinary tract infections, UTIs. And trust me, you do not want a UTI. They're painful, they're annoying, and if they're not treated, they can lead to even bigger problems, like kidney infections. And nobody wants that. I had a patient once. Let's call him George. George was 67, and he came to see me because he was waking up 5 times a night to pee. 5 times. He was exhausted. His wife was exhausted, and he was at his wit's end. He tried everything, cutting back on coffee, drinking less before bed, even those over-the-counter prostate supplements. But nothing worked. And then, during our appointment, he mentioned almost offhandedly that he always pushes a little to make sure he empties his bladder. And that's when I knew exactly what was going on. George had been pushing to pee for years, and all that pushing had weakened his bladder muscles, enlarged his prostate, and left him with a bladder that never felt empty. We worked on changing his habits. No more pushing, sitting down to pee, yes, even for men, and doing some simple pelvic floor exercises. And within a few weeks, George was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. His trips to the bathroom went from 5 a night to just 1. And his wife, she was thrilled. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But doc, if I don't push, how do I know I've emptied my bladder completely? Great question. And the answer is simpler than you think. Your bladder is designed to empty on its own. You don't need to push. You don't need to force it. All you need to do is relax. Sit down. Yes, sit down. Even if you're a man, relax your muscles and let your bladder do its job. And if you're not sure if you've emptied completely, here's a trick. After you pee, wait about 30 seconds, then try again. This is called the double void technique, and it's a game changer. It ensures you've emptied your bladder fully without any straining or pushing. But what if you've been pushing for years? Is the damage already done? The good news is your body is incredibly resilient. Even if you've been pushing for decades, you can still turn things around. It starts with breaking the habit. Every time you feel the urge to push, stop. Take a deep breath, relax, and let your bladder do the work. It might feel weird at first. You might feel like you're not emptying your bladder completely. But give it time. Your bladder will relearn how to function properly, and you'll start to see the benefits. Fewer trips to the bathroom, a stronger stream, and no more of that awful, I still have to go feeling. And let's talk about your pelvic floor for a second. Your pelvic floor muscles support your bladder and your prostate, and when they're weak, all sorts of problems can pop up, like incontinence, or that dreaded dribbling after you pee. But here's the good news. You can strengthen those muscles with a simple exercise called Kegels. You've probably heard of them. Most people think they're just for women, but men can benefit from them too. Here's how you do them. Next time you're peeing, try to stop the stream mid-flow. The muscles you use to do that, those are your pelvic floor muscles. Now, squeeze those muscles for about 5 seconds, then relax for 5 seconds. Do this 10 times, 3 times a day. It's that simple. And within a few weeks, you'll start to notice a difference. Your stream will be stronger, you'll have fewer leaks, and you'll feel more in control. But let's say you've been pushing for so long that you're already dealing with some issues. Maybe you've got BPH, or you're dealing with frequent UTIs, or you're waking up multiple times a night to pee. What then? First, don't panic. These things are treatable. But you do need to take action. Start by making an appointment with your urologist. Get a prostate check. Make sure everything's okay down there. And in the meantime, start working on those habits. Stop pushing. Sit down to pee. Do your Kegels. Drink plenty of water, but cut back a couple of hours before bed so you're not up all night. And avoid bladder irritants like caffeine, alcohol, and spicy foods. I had another patient. Let's call him Frank. Frank was 72, and he'd been dealing with UTIs for years. He'd been on antibiotics so many times he'd lost count. And every time he'd finish a round, the infection would come back. He was frustrated. His doctor was frustrated, and he was starting to think this was just his life now. But when he came to see me, we talked about his habits. And guess what? Frank was a chronic pusher. He'd been doing it for so long he didn't even realize he was doing it. We worked on breaking that habit, and within a few months, his UTIs were gone. Completely. No more antibiotics, no more pain, no more frustration. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but Doc, I've been doing this my whole life. How am I supposed to stop now? I get it. Old habits die hard. But here's the thing. Your health is worth it. And the sooner you start, the sooner you'll see results. So next time you're in the bathroom, pay attention. Are you pushing? Are you straining? If so, stop. Relax. Let your bladder do its job. And if you're not sure if you've emptied completely, use the double void technique. It might feel strange at first, but I promise you your bladder and your prostate will thank you. But here's the thing. Pushing isn't the only mistake men make in the bathroom. Oh no, there's another one. And this one's even worse. You see, there's this one drink that almost every man over 60 has every single day. And it's destroying your prostate. Worse than soda. Worse than coffee. And no, it's not alcohol. Want to know what it is? Well, you'll have to wait until next week because that's when I'm dropping the bombshell. But let me tell you this. You do not want to miss it. So here's what I want you to do right now. Next time you pee, watch yourself. Are you pushing? Are you straining? If so, stop. Right now. Because your future self will thank you. And if you've been dealing with any of the issues we talked about today, weak stream, frequent urination, UTIs, start making those changes. Sit down to pee. Do your Kegels. Use the double void technique. And if you're already dealing with bigger issues, make that appointment with your urologist. Because the sooner you take action, the sooner you'll start feeling better. And if you found this helpful, if this opened your eyes to something you've been doing wrong for years, then do me a favor. Drop a comment below. Let me know. Have you been pushing to pee? Are you going to try sitting down or doing Kegels? And if you've got a friend who's dealing with the same issues, share this video with them. Because the more men know about this, the fewer men will have to suffer. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because next week, we're talking about that one drink that's silently destroying your prostate. Trust me, you do not want to miss it. So until then, Take care of yourselves. And remember, your bladder and your prostate will thank you.